Ugh, you animal. Let go of me. I swear, you'll pay for this. You bastard. Jessica Miller, the undisputed queen of campus, thrashed wildly, her fists hammering against Caleb Hayes as he pinned her down. Caleb, the school's resident kingpin, just laughed. There's nowhere to run today, Jess. What's so bad about being with me? What's so great about David Young? The guy's family is one step away from a soup kitchen. You think being tall and handsome pays the bills? As Caleb spoke, his hands were busy, tearing at her blouse. Jessica's struggles grew more frantic. Outside the classroom door, two of Caleb's cronies heard the muffled sounds, exchanged a smirk, and went back to standing guard. Inside, Jessica was losing strength. In a last-ditch effort, she opened her mouth and sank her teeth into Caleb's hand. "Ah, you bitch. You actually bit me? Fine. You want to do this the hard way." The words were followed by the sharp crack of a slap. A stark red handprint bloomed on her beautiful, innocent face. Her head snapped to the side, and a trickle of blood appeared at the corner of her mouth. I've been waiting downstairs for what felt like an eternity, and a knot of dread was tightening in my stomach. Jessica and I had known each other since we were kids. I'd been captivated by her from the first grade, trailing after her like a shadow. All the way through college, she just kept getting more beautiful, and the line of guys trying to ask her out, or just harass her, grew longer. I was always there, her silent guardian. But coming from a working-class family, I never had the guts to tell the girl I loved how I felt. To me, she was an angel, and I thought she deserved a better life than I could ever give her. So I buried my feelings deep down, never letting them show. I'd just wake up early, wait outside her house to walk to campus with her, and then wait for her after her last class to see her home safely. Day after day, year after year. My quiet ritual. I could feel she cared about me, too. In the mornings, she'd see me waiting and her face would light up. She'd run over, her eyes curving into happy crescents, and press a warm bacon, egg, and cheese from the corner deli into my hands. Her family was better off, so her packed lunches were always amazing. When we ate together, she'd push all the best parts from her lunchbox onto my tray. "I have to watch my figure," she'd say, "but my mom insists I eat. You'd be doing me a favor." When it got cold, she learned to knit and give me scarves and gloves. When it was hot, she'd bring me fruit and ice-cold juice from home. We were always together. To everyone else, we were already a couple, but we both knew there was a line we'd never crossed. Today had been normal. After my last class, I was waiting for her when I saw her walking towards me, a spring in her step. "Something good happened today? You look happy," I said, naturally taking her backpack from her. "Of course I'm happy to see you waiting for me," she teased, drawing out the words in that playful way she had. "But I wait for you every day. Then I'm happy every day." Hith. Lousy with words, all I could do was grin like an idiot. "Hey, Jessica," another student from her class, a big, doughy guy, jogged up to us. "Professor Albright needs to see you." She said to go back to the classroom. Jessica looked confused, but she left right after class. Who knows? Maybe she came back for something. Said it was important. "You should hurry." She seemed like she was in a rush, the guy urged, looking antsy. Jessica didn't suspect a thing. "David, wait here for me, okay? I'll be right back. I can come with you. Campus is pretty empty now. I'll come too." "No," the guy cut in sharply, blocking my path. "It's probably about something private for the class. You just be in the way. Besides, you two are joined at the hip 24/7. Can't you be apart for 5 minutes? You're worse than a married couple. Do you want the professors to know your business too?" His tone was laced with a weird, snide energy. Jessica's face flushed scarlet. "What are you talking about?" she retorted, flustered. Then she turned to me. "Why don't you just wait here? I promise I'll be quick." I nodded and watched them disappear up the stairwell. After 20 minutes of waiting, with no sign of Jessica, that feeling of dread returned with a vengeance. And then it hit me, a realization that made my blood run cold. That guy, he was one of Caleb Hayes' goons. Caleb was in Jessica's class. He'd asked her out on the first day of freshman year, and she'd shot him down flat. But he never gave up, constantly harassing her. A few times he'd gotten too aggressive, and I'd had to step in. Being a head taller than him and his crew, they usually backed off. The thought sent me sprinting up the stairs. Her classroom was on the 5th floor. I took the steps 3 at a time, moving faster than I ever had in my life. When I got to her floor, I saw them, the guy who'd come to get her and another one of Caleb's loyal cronies, standing guard outside the door. When they saw me, panic flashed across their faces. What are you doing up here? Professor Albright's almost done. You can wait downstairs." I didn't slow down. I ran faster. The screams echoing down the hall weren't from any talk with the professor. It was Jessica, crying for help. In that moment, something inside me snapped. I threw a punch at each of them, sending them sprawling to the floor, not even registering the force of the blows. Then I kicked the classroom door open. The scene that greeted me sent a wave of pure rage through my body. Caleb had his pants down. Jessica was on a desk, her clothes torn, barely able to move. "Who the hell let you in? Get out now." Caleb's voice pulled my brain out of its white-hot fog and back into reality. "You son of a bitch." I lunged, a flurry of fists and feet. Seeing his pants were still around his ankles, I kicked him again and again in the groin. Usually a couple of punches in a fight, and I'd cool down. But this time, watching Caleb curl into a ball on the floor, howling like a stuck pig, only made me angrier. If Jessica hadn't grabbed me, wrapping her arms around me from behind, I might have actually killed him. It took a long time for her soothing voice to bring me back to my senses. I quickly took off my jacket and draped it over her, covering her torn clothes. Then I called 911 for both the police and an ambulance for Caleb. Jessica and I were taken to the station for questioning. The next morning, we got the news on Caleb's condition. The damage to his groin was so severe, reattachment was impossible. His family immediately filed a lawsuit against me. On our lawyer's advice, Jessica and I countersued. But Caleb's family had deep pockets. They hired a team of the best lawyers in the country who found every loophole, buried any evidence that hurt them, and manufactured evidence that helped. On the day of the verdict, I was found guilty of aggravated assault with excessive force. Sentence: 10 years in state prison. As the police car pulled away, I saw Jessica chasing after it, her parents trying in vain to hold her back until she collapsed, sobbing, on the pavement. In that moment, I knew my life was over. Our life together was over. In prison, I worked my ass off, keeping my nose clean, always exceeding my work quotas. Jessica visited a lot at first, bringing me things, her eyes always red and swollen. She swore she'd wait for me. But after about 6 months, the visit stopped. A part of me was relieved. A girl as amazing as her deserved her own life, not to be tied down by a guy like me. I'd even told her as much. "Don't come back," I'd said. "Find someone who loves you, who's good to you, and get married." She'd just shake her head every time, tears in her eyes. "No one will ever love me like you do," she'd whisper. Because of my good behavior, my sentence was reduced again and again. 5 years in, I was finally released. Walking out of the prison gates, I saw my parents running towards me. My mom threw her arms around me, crying. "You're so thin," she sobbed. "You must have suffered so much." My dad stood behind her, patting her shoulder. "He's out now. That's all that matters." After a few words, I glanced past them, scanning the small crowd. I was looking for a face I'd dreamed of for 5 years, but she wasn't there. Even though I'd told her to move on, a bitter wave of disappointment washed over me. We got in my dad's car. On the ride home, they filled me in on how much things had changed, catching me up on family news. My cousin got married last year. My other cousin had twin boys, making it 3 boys under 5 at her house. They were going crazy. Listening to their cheerful chatter, I finally had to ask, "Mom, how's Jess doing?" The lively conversation in the car died instantly. She's doing fine," my mom said a little too quickly. I glanced at my parents. Their expressions were awkward, uncomfortable, like it was a topic they wanted to avoid. I didn't press it. As long as she was okay, I was happy. I spent the first 3 days at home, with a steady stream of relatives and friends stopping by. Whenever I asked them about Jessica, they'd all clam up, either saying they didn't know or mumbling something about how they heard she was doing well. After 3 days, I wanted to start looking for a job. My mom tried to stop me. "What's the rush? You need to put some weight on first." I was happy with my physique. I'd spent most of my free time in prison working out. But in a mother's eyes, I was wasting away. After some persistence, she finally relented. Being locked up for 5 years, I felt disconnected from the world. I'd learned auto repair in prison, a solid skill. But every garage I went to, as soon as they heard where I'd learned my trade, would politely say they weren't hiring and show me the door. I found myself parked outside the last auto shop in the city. If this place turned me down, I didn't know what I would do. I sat in the car for a half hour, psyching myself up before finally getting out and walking in. I signed in at the security gate and asked the old guard for the owner's office. I knocked on the door and a voice called me in. "Can I help you?" The owner was a man in his late 40s or early 50s, well-dressed and sharp. "Hi, I was wondering if you're hiring," I said, walking up to his desk. "Oh, you're here for a job? You know how to work on gas and electric?" he asked, not directly answering my question. "Both." "Okay. Where did you work before? Or did you learn at a trade school?" Here it was, the million-dollar question, the one that had ended every other interview. There was no point in lying. I learned in prison. Just as I expected, the owner's friendly demeanor vanished. I'm sorry, but we're fully staffed at the moment. Why don't you leave your number, and if anything opens up, I'll give you a call. Right? Another dead end. I forced a smile, gave him my number, and turned to leave. Just then, the door flew open and a girl burst in. Dad, I finished up this month's payroll. Can you look it over before I send it out? She looked up and finally noticed me. Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't know you had a guest. I hope I didn't interrupt. Her tone immediately shifted to something more demure. She gave me a little smile and stuck her tongue out playfully. Seeing her reminded me of Jessica. They both had that same pure, innocent beauty, though this girl seemed much more mischievous. It's fine, Chloe. He was just applying for a job. Just leave the payroll on the desk, her dad said, his voice softening with affection for his daughter. Oh, perfect. Weren't you just saying yesterday you needed another mechanic? And here one is, she chirped, then noticed her dad frantically blinking at her. Dad, what's wrong with your eye? Is it bothering you? No, it's fine. If you're done, you can go. What's wrong? Yesterday you're short-staffed. Today a guy shows up and you turn him away? He seems nice. I say you should hire him, she declared. Normally, I would have thanked her for her kindness and left. But I was out of options. I had nowhere else to go. So I just stood there, my face burning, as they debated. What do you know about hiring? It's not your decision to make. He learned his skills in prison, her dad said in a harsh whisper. The girl, Chloe, looked at me with genuine curiosity. Why would you go there to learn? Was it free? I was speechless for a second. This girl was almost impossibly naive. Well, it was free, yeah, but I was there because I got in trouble. Oh, she said, her eyes widening in understanding. What did you do? Aggravated assault. I mumbled, the words feeling heavy and shameful. Chloe just nodded, then turned back to her dad. Having a record doesn't automatically make someone a bad person. If he wasn't trying to turn his life around, he wouldn't be out here looking for a job. I think we should give him a chance to prove himself. They went back and forth for a while, but her dad clearly couldn't say no to his daughter. He finally agreed to give me a trial run, starting the next day. I had to fight to keep the joy off my face. This was it, my chance at a normal life. I thanked them both profusely and went home. After a small celebration with my family, I got my things ready and showed up early the next morning. I wanted to make a good first impression. I worked hard, and my co-workers, who quickly learned about my past, didn't seem to care. They were a good bunch. A few days later, I was elbows deep in an engine, covered in grease from a long morning's work, when Chloe came up to me. Someone's here to see you, she said. I wiped my hands on a rag and followed her outside. Leaning against a sleek, high-end sports car was a familiar figure. Dressed in expensive clothes, with flawless makeup, the woman exuded an air of success and wealth. It was clear she was doing very, very well for herself. David, you're out. Why didn't you call me? I figured it was about time, so I started asking around. I should have been there to pick you up, but Jessica walked over to me, her eyes filling with pity as she took in my grease-stained clothes. It's okay. I'm not a kid. I don't need anyone to pick me up, I said, and I meant it. Seeing her like this, I was genuinely happy for her. I'm glad to see you're doing so well. You must be miserable here. Why don't you come work for me? I can set you up with something much better than this. I politely declined. I actually liked it here. Be honest, hard work felt good. We chatted for a while longer, catching up, until her dad yelled for me impatiently. We exchanged numbers, and she left. Back in the garage, I went back to the engine. A few minutes later, Chloe tiptoed up behind me and shouted boo, making me jump. She doubled over laughing. When she finally caught her breath, she asked with a grin, So, who was the supermodel in the Porsche 911? I didn't know you ran in those circles. An old classmate, I said, nonchalantly. Thinking about it, we'd never actually been anything more. Just really, really close classmates. Oh, I think it's more than that. 1. She was totally dressed to impress today. 2. Who stays in touch with old classmates for years. She came all this way just to find you. And 3. All right, I get it. I cut her off. She was on her way to meet a client and just stopped by. Someone like her would never be interested in me now. You never know. This isn't the dark ages. No one cares about that stuff anymore. Women care about love. And you're not so bad yourself. You're tall, handsome. She trailed off, a faint blush creeping up her cheeks. When she noticed me looking at her, she quickly spun around. Fine, if you say so, I won't argue. You're just saying that because you have to. You're so full of yourself. She shot back with a laugh, then scampered away. After that, Jessica started stopping by the garage every few days, always bringing me something. And every time she left, Chloe would pop up with some sarcastic comment. I learned that shutting her up was as simple as giving her whatever food Jessica had brought. It's true what they say. Trouble always finds you. One day at lunch, we were all eating when the boss, Chloe's dad, came in. David, customer's here. Go see what he needs. I think he still held a grudge against me. Whenever a job came in during lunch or a break, he always called on me first, whether I was done eating or not. I walked out to see a gleaming Mercedes-AMG GT. I asked my usual question. What's the issue with the car? I'm driving along, and it just loses power all of a sudden. What's up with that? The owner swung his legs out of the car. Doesn't sound like anything major. Probably a faulty fuel pump. An easy fix, I explained as I popped the hood. Then fix it. I'm in a hurry. I heard the click, a lighter. Sorry, sir, no smoking in the service bay. Don't give me that crap. As we spoke, we finally looked at each other. Well, I'll be damned. You're out. Look at that. The world really is a small place. We meet again. Old friend. It was Caleb Hayes. His face was softer, almost more effeminate than I remembered, but there was no mistaking him. I honestly didn't think you'd make it out alive, he sneered. But it doesn't matter. You won't be breathing for long anyway. It's better this way. Now I get to have some fun, watch you squirm. His eyes were filled with a burning hatred. His teeth clenched so hard I thought they'd crack. He looked like he wanted to eat me alive. And why not? I was the one who had castrated him. I couldn't blame him for hating me. The feeling was mutual. He may have deserved what he got, but he'd still ruined my life. Well, if it isn't Caleb, I said, my voice dripping with scorn. They say a man changes when he loses the family jewels. You're looking different. But hey, every cloud has a silver lining. At least you can hit all the high notes now. The insult hit its mark like a knife to the heart. His face twisted in a mask of rage, and he lunged at me, his hands like claws. I just calmly picked up a large wrench from the nearby toolbox. He screeched to a halt about 10 feet away, as if he'd slammed on invisible brakes. The memory of our last encounter was apparently still fresh. He took a deep breath, visibly calming himself. What are you going to do? Let me tell you, if someone hadn't been protecting you on the inside, you'd be dead already. As he said this, a malicious glint appeared in his eyes. A sick smile spread across his face. You want to know how that precious Jessica you saved is doing these days? Seeing his expression, a terrible premonition seized me. I didn't answer. I knew he was going to tell me anyway. When I stayed silent, he paused for dramatic effect. What if I told you, he began, savoring every word, that Jessica is now my wife? How does that make you feel about your 5 years in prison? Ha ha. The words hit me like a physical blow, knocking the wind out of me. Jessica, the woman I'd gone to prison for, had married the very man who tried to rape her. What the hell was the last 5 years for? I was a complete and utter fool. Say that. Again, I ground out, my jaw aching from the pressure. You heard me, but fine, I'll say it one more time for the cheap seats. Jessica is my wife. Got now. He watched my reaction, his eyes gleaming with triumph. If my coworkers hadn't rushed over and held me back, I would have put him in the hospital again, and it would have been much worse than the first time. I was distracted and clumsy for the rest of the afternoon, my mind reeling. I didn't have the courage to call Jessica and ask her if it was true. I kept making mistakes, so I finally just asked for the rest of the day off. I went home and laid on my bed, staring at the ceiling, picturing their wedding, imagining them together. The pain was a physical thing, a blade twisting in my gut. My perfect, unattainable angel had ended up with a pig. Caleb's family had money, sure, but I knew him. He was a selfish monster, incapable of treating anyone well. I didn't sleep a wink. The next morning, I dragged my exhausted body to the garage. The place was already in an uproar. I pushed my way through the crowd of mechanics to see what was going on. It was Caleb there to pick up his car. It had been fixed, but he was picking it apart, complaining loudly about a dozen imaginary problems. And standing next to him, her hand laced through his, was the woman I had thought about every single day for the past 5 years. Jessica. Any lingering hope I'd had yesterday died on the spot. Caleb, still ranting, finally spotted me at the back of the crowd. He beckoned to me with a smug, dismissive flick of his wrist. You, over here. Come on, come on. He cooed like he was calling a dog. I had no choice. I swallowed my pride and walked over. Jessica glanced at me for a split second before looking down at the ground. It was a hot day, but she was wearing long sleeves and pants. I left my car with you yesterday. What did you do to it? It doesn't drive the same. Do you have any idea how much this car costs? Your entire family couldn't afford one of the tires, he spat. I'm not satisfied with your work. So, what are you going to do about it? Our job is to fix the car, not to guarantee every customer's subjective satisfaction, I said calmly, making a be my guest gesture. If we had to issue refunds every time a customer tried to scam us by claiming they weren't satisfied, no garage could stay in business. If you believe there's a problem, you can have it inspected by a third party. If they find a fault with our work, we'll gladly compensate you according to industry standards. You got a lot of nerve. Fine. We'll put that aside for a moment. I have another issue. I've owned this car for 2 years, and I've never seen what it looks like on the inside. I'm curious. So today, I want you to take the entire thing apart for me. I want to see how it works. He then lifted Jessica's hand and kissed it. I'm sure you'd like to see that too, wouldn't you, darling? Yes. Of course, Jessica stammered, forcing a smile. My wife wants to see it. What are you waiting for? He put a heavy, deliberate emphasis on the word wife. We don't do that kind of work here, a firm voice cut in. Chloe stepped in front of me, her hands on her hips, ready for a fight. For a moment, standing behind her, I felt protected. This is a repair shop, not a chop shop. If you want to see your car dismantled, you'll have to go somewhere else. And who are you? Caleb asked, tilting his head as he sized her up. I'm the owner. We won't be doing the work, and your car is repaired. If you're not happy, take it for inspection. She then turned and dismissed the crowd of employees. Caleb's plan to humiliate me in front of everyone had backfired. Frustrated, he snarled, fine. We'll leave it at that for now. I've got plenty of time. He yanked Jessica towards him, wrapping an arm around her waist and giving her rear a vicious pinch, so hard it distorted the fabric of her pants. Jessica quickly turned her head away, hiding her expression, but I could tell it hurt. They laughed hand in hand. As they passed me, Caleb leaned in and whispered, I've decided. I'm going to destroy you slowly. I won't let you die quickly. I didn't even look at him. My eyes were fixed on Jessica. She clearly heard him, and I saw her flinch, a barely perceptible tightening of her features, but she showed no other reaction. A cold dread washed over me. The thought of my death barely even registered with her. That afternoon, Chloe pulled me away from the lunch table and into her office. It was the first time I'd been inside. It was decorated like a teenager's bedroom, bright and cozy. Have a seat, she said, handing me a cold Coke. We need to talk. Thanks. Is this about work? Is it mandatory? We sat across from each other at a small coffee table. Yes. I want to know why you went to prison. I told you already. Aggravated assault. It was because of that woman, wasn't it? Chloe might act goofy, but she was sharp. She could read a situation in an instant. I didn't say anything, just kept eating my lunch. Silence means yes. And that creep has a grudge against you, right? You brought her here today just to humiliate you. I nodded slowly. So what's the whole story? Honestly, Chloe had been incredibly kind to me. Since I got out, I hadn't really connected with anyone. My old friend were gone. My life was just work and home. Chloe was the only person who made an effort, stopping by the garage every day to chat, bringing cold drinks on hot days. I could tell she liked me, but I also knew my past was a major roadblock. So, I told her everything. As I was finishing the story, she slammed her hand down on the coffee table with a loud smack that made me jump. That's horrible. You went to prison for her, and she turned around and married the guy who assaulted her? That's... She struggled to find the right word. She looked at me for help. I just shrugged. I know what you mean, but I can't describe it either. Look, that creep is obviously not going to let this go. What's your plan? I don't have one. The worst he can do is hire some guys to beat me up a few times. He wouldn't actually try to kill me, would he? This is the 21st century. If you get hurt, you can't work. I think you should stay here at the garage for a while. You wouldn't dare cause trouble on my property. The second floor of the office building had dorm rooms, and Chloe often stayed there herself. I thanked her for the offer, but brushed it off. Kill me? He wouldn't dare. I was wrong. That night on the quiet street leading to my house, 5 or 6 big guys jumped me. They beat me until I blacked out. I woke up in a hospital bed. The last thing I remembered was the brutal, relentless punches and kicks. They weren't trying to scare me. Damn it. He really is trying to kill me. As I tried to sit up, a figure rushed to my side. David, you just woke up. Don't move. The doctor said you're not seriously injured, but you need to rest for a couple of days. I saw her face and immediately pushed her away. What are you doing here? It was Jessica. Seeing my reaction, she looked heartbroken. Since grade school, I'd been the one who protected her from everything, who took the blame for her, who fought for her. She used to say I loved her more than her own father. And now, I was pushing her away with cold indifference. After a long silence, she choked back her sorrow and spoke. David, this had nothing to do with me. My people got there too late. It's my fault I should have. Why are you with him? I cut her off, asking the question that had been tormenting me for days. She must have expected it. Her expression became calm, the panic from a moment ago gone. He was persistent, and he was good to me, and I had a realization. You only get one life. You can live it simply, or you can live in luxury. I chose luxury. David, we're not kids anymore. I hope you can understand. As for the 5 years you spent in prison for me, I'll make it up to you, and I promise you won't be hurt again. Her eyes were dull as she spoke, her expression flat when she mentioned Caleb. The Jessica I remembered would never look like this if she were truly happy. But I didn't want to dig any deeper. They were a married couple now. She was probably here to ask me not to press charges against her husband. Fine, as long as you're happy. I'll let this go. As for your compensation, there's just one thing I want. Anything. Whatever I can do, I'll do it, she said, her voice sincere. From now on, I think it's best if we don't see each other again. That's the only thing I ask for. Her body went rigid, and she swayed as if she'd been struck. It took a long moment for her to lift her head. Her eyes were red, her face a mask of disbelief. You still blame me, don't you? I know what I did was wrong, but we can still be friends. The day I went to prison, I gave up any hope of us being together. I truly wanted you to find happiness, but I can't accept you being with him. It makes me feel like my sacrifice was for nothing. It makes me feel like a fool. So, that's my one condition. Otherwise, I'll make sure Caleb goes back to prison. She knew that look in my eyes. It was the same one I'd given anyone who tried to hurt her, the look that said I would never back down, no matter how badly I was beaten. Okay, she whispered, her voice barely audible. I understand. I won't bother you again. She turned and slowly walked out of the room. I called my parents to come help me out at the hospital. The next day, Chloe found out and called first thing in the morning, insisting she would bring me food. When she arrived, she acted like my girlfriend, bustling around, taking me to my follow-up appointments, and charming my parents. My mom cornered me when Chloe was out of the room. David, that girlfriend of yours is a real catch. She's pretty, she's capable. Your father, and I really like her. I was drinking water and nearly did a spit take. What are you talking about? She's my boss's daughter. Don't say things like that. I think you've had low self-esteem ever since you got out, my mom countered. So what if she has money? My son is tall and handsome. He's a prize. I've been around the block, and I can tell she's into you. She doesn't do this for every injured employee, I guarantee it. You hesitated with the last one and lost her. If you don't grab this chance, you'll regret it when you're old. Stop. She'll be back any second, I said, cutting her off. My mom was right. I had a habit of putting the women I liked on a pedestal, seeing only their perfect qualities until I convinced myself I wasn't good enough. But she was also right that you have to fight for your own happiness. A few days later, I was discharged. Chloe absolutely refused to let me go back to my own place. When I told her it was fine, that things had been settled, she just looked at me like I was an idiot. You ruined his life, David. That's not something a person just gets over. She had a point. I moved into the room next to hers at the garage. A few months passed. One night, I was scrolling through the news on my phone when a headline caught my eye. The city's largest corporation was under investigation for financial fraud, tax evasion, and racketeering. The CEO and his son had both been arrested. I didn't celebrate, but I did eat 2 extra bread rolls with dinner that night. They say when your luck turns, it really turns. One evening, I was lying in bed on my phone when I heard a knock on my door. It was Chloe, fresh from the shower. She said there was a huge mouse in her room, and she was too scared to sleep in there. Without a second thought, I was ready to go play exterminator. I'll go catch it for you. It's too fast, and it's so small, you'll never find where it's hiding. Maybe I can buy you some sticky traps. We can put them all around your bed. Traps? You really are a block of wood, you know that. The penny finally dropped. An idiot wouldn't have gotten it. Seeing her there, her face flushed from the hot shower, her hair still damp. My 20-something-year-old self was having trouble staying in control. I took a chance and pulled her into a hug. She squirmed slightly. Don't touch me. Go catch your mouse. That was my green light. I didn't hesitate. I leaned in and kissed her. She didn't resist, just closed her eyes and let me. When the moment felt right, I lifted her into my arms and carried her to my bed. And then, the sun came up. He'd been my shadow since elementary school, but he was never annoying. In middle school, as he grew taller and more handsome, he became my protector, chasing away any boys who bothered me. Sometimes he'd get into fights for me, and I'd carefully clean his wounds, my heart aching for him. He was my knight. Then that incident happened. He was sentenced to 10 years, and Caleb Hayes threatened me. Marry him, or he would arrange to have David killed in prison. I couldn't let that happen. After days of agonizing, I agreed. But Caleb didn't keep his promise. He paid someone on the inside to kill David anyway. Luckily, I knew what kind of man Caleb was. Whatever price he offered the hitman, I secretly offered double. David got out in 5 years for good behavior. I want to see him as often as I could. He was still kind to me, and we could talk for hours, just like old times, until his boss would call him back to work. Then he and Caleb met again. Caleb found out what I'd done about paying off the hitman. That night, he beat me harder than he ever had before. Without his manhood, he had become a volatile monster, taking out every frustration on me. I endured it all in silence. I had to. because I was gathering evidence. I needed one clean shot to bring down his entire family. I had to make sure David would never be hurt again. He had protected me his whole life. It was my turn to protect him. After years of careful work, I finally had enough. He and his father were arrested. Their crimes were so severe, they were sentenced to death. His mother got life in prison. Because I was never involved in their business dealings, I walked away clean. The family's assets were seized, but I had managed to save a significant amount of money over the years. With it all over, I decided to take some time for myself, to travel and see the parts of the country I'd always wanted to see. As for David and me, I leave that up to fate.